Hello, everyone. I think we are ready to start now. As with all, there are always some minor technical difficulties. Murphy always has to rear his ugly head. So thank you. I hope this fine Sunday morning finds you well with a warm tea or coffee, as you might like. It's a little chilly. We are here on the second day of Bamboos. And we are here to talk on a workshop about an important matter, which is for all apartment dwelling or community people: savings, sustainability, and safety. And as a friend, Muruga, told me, these are the most important things that everybody should know to become a rock star residential community. Okay, so during this workshop, what we aim to do is to give you some best practices, awareness of certain service level agreements, compliance issues across four main buckets, which come up in every, which are important to every residential community. That is waste management, electricity consumption, rainwater harvesting or water management, as well as safety. So during this workshop, we have a set of people who are either experts or have a lot of experience dealing with these issues in each of their apartment communities. And following this first round of introductions and talks, what we will do is open it up for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please hold till the end, or if possible, you can actually ask those questions in the chat window, and then we can come to that once the first level of introductions and once all the panelists have spoken. Okay, without further ado, what I will do is I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Zivi Jamal. I'm a member of Whitefield Rising, and in my community, I have been a member of the management community in my complex, and I held various positions as a member, as a secretary, as well as the president for 1 year. I'm not in it currently, but what was in the position for in various capacities for 5 years. And all the topics that we are going to discuss today, these were things that we constantly came up with, and best practices and things that we learned during the course of time. But here, all of this is synthesized and given to you. So without further ado, what I will do is I will pass on the mic to all the other panelists to introduce themselves first. I call upon Pravir Bagrodia first.
So good morning, namaskara. On a Sunday morning, I am Pravir and I live in Whitefield. I am an MC member of the DNR Atmosphere community, which has about 270 plus flats. And I have played other roles in the past in my previous community also, including as a secretary. And I've learned a lot about, particularly about waste management. I'm also a volunteer with Whitefield Rising since 2013, and that has also helped me to get a good perspective of the challenges that we face in the civic space and in all these waste management, water management, etc. By profession, I am a reporter, editor, and I have been in this field of content for about 3 decades.
Thank you, Praveer. And Praveer, I just want to state, will be sharing his learnings on waste management during this workshop. Next, I call upon Mr. Ravi Kumar.
Hi, hello everyone, and good morning. Thanks to the organizers. I feel privileged to be part of this workshop and happy to be contributing to the wonderful work that BAF is doing. So my name is Ravi Kumar, and I am a resident of a small residential layout near Nagwara. I am part of the managing committee of Manyata Residency Nivashigala Shema Abhivriti Sangha. I've been a resident of Bangalore for the last 25 years, and I've seen complete transformation of Bangalore. I'm also a director of a company called Lake Forest Green Energy, and I've been part of the solar industry for the last 8 to 9 years. And we have installed solar plants in apartments in Bangalore under both a fixed and capex models. I'm here to provide some little insights on how solar can help in providing environmental sustainability and economic value. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Ravi Kumar. Is Mr. Vijay here? I think
yeah,
Mr. Vijay.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Vijay. Thank you. Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vijay Raj Sishodia from Farmland Rainwater Harvesting System. We are a pioneer company in rainwater harvesting systems since last 20 years. We have installed more than 246,000 installations pan-India rooftop rainwater harvesting, as well as more than 14,700 groundwater recharging for dried borewells as the depleting borewells also. We got solutions for the waterlogging issues of your basements. And we are winners of 6 national awards, 2 international awards, and we have been exporting our products to about 21 countries.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Good to know. Thank you. I think we've had some trouble with onboarding Mr. Satish Malia here. Is he here now? Mr. Satish? Okay. We will give a moment for him for him to join. I call Mr. Praveen Kumar to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Praveen Kumar, and I am one of the co-founder and CEO of Uniservice. I think many of you know Uniservice is a facility management company, primarily focused on residential communities. We are managing close to 60 plus premium apartments all over Bangalore. So, and my focus is mainly on the operational excellence, be in terms of cost saving, in terms of implementing technology solutions, and I'll also focus on executing turnkey projects to implement sustainable long-term benefits of the community. So happy to be a part of this panel, and I believe I can add a lot of value to the, especially the RWA members who can take notes and implement the information that I'm going to share here today, and you can benefit your society. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Praveen. We are still waiting for one panelist to join, Mr. Satish Malia, who was going to talk to us about safety. If anyone can, touch base with BAF text support as people and let them know about that. That would be great. I know Satish is in the Zoom meeting, but I think unable to join as a panelist. Okay. With that, I think we will move on, and hopefully, during that time, Mr. Malia will be able to join. But what we will do right now is, as I said earlier, there is 4 big buckets that we want to kind of touch upon, and these are the things that constantly come up. If you've been in a management committee position, or if you're in an apartment or residential community, these are things that are the main challenging areas while trying to operationalize, do all the operations in the community. Those areas are waste management, energy consumption. Water has become a big issue, and of course safety and concerns that everybody, in security aspects that we want to do. Now, we all know that many of these costs are going up. For waste management, there are very strict rules that have come up in Bangalore. If you are a 50 or plus apartment or a residential community, a lot of the compost, the wet waste has to be taken care of inside the house. Dry waste has to be given to an empanel vendor or to BBMP. And there are reject waste, electronic waste, medical waste, and big bulky waste that come up. So here I call upon Mr. Praveer Bagrodia. He's been a champion of, in the green clean movement, and personally, as well as sharing his insights with everybody that he comes across. As a management committee member in his previous communities, as well as in DNR, he has instituted or shared best practices to ensure that whoever he comes across with or his community can be most effective in this space. Praveer, I pass on the mic to you so you can share what you have learned so far, and what is it that each residential community can do to up their game.
Thank you, Zibi. I will share a few tips which we have followed, and it's up to you if you want to adopt or adapt to what we are following here quickly, and some of the learnings and the challenges that how we are overcoming. So at the base of I'm going to just show this a little bit. If you can see, there's a book called Trashonomics. It's a wonderful book brought up by Solid Waste Management Roundtable. It's good for children too, and even adults, and it guides you. So at the base of any waste management practice, we should have reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse, reclaim as the base. That's important, particularly any managing committee member who is looking after waste. I feel that instead of just focusing on waste management or segregation, we should also have environment at our core. And if that is driving us, then that will make us passionate, and that we will do a more effective job. Having said that, I will also talk about general waste management things that we are facing here and what we are doing. One of the key things is to understand the whole space. One thing which has helped me is doing my own composting, and it's important that we know the core of all the simple things about whether it is dry waste or composting or about reject waste. And where it has helped is some of the things that has helped, particularly in Bangalore, we have an extremely well networked resource base here. We have Sahas, which has been working in this space for a very long time. So one of the first things I'll mention is we have a tie-up with Sahas and Insight. They have a Be Responsible program. I'll highly recommend that. It is for electronic waste or e-waste. All the electrical and electronic things, we are keeping a separate blue bin in our common area, and it is under supervision. And all the residents are encouraged to discard their CDs or all the hazardous waste, including tube lights, batteries. There is a procedure to be followed, of course, but the van comes once a month and they collect, and there is no charge for it except for as per government mandate, there is a charge, 45 rupees a kilo you have to pay for tube lights and mercury containing certain items, and also batteries. So e-waste is one thing which is important to separate from all the other waste and can be collected once a month by one of the empaneled authorized vendors, for example, Insight and Sahas. The other, so that is about e-waste. There is a wonderful resources available, particularly by HWMRT, 2bin 1 bag, Casa Mukta, Belendur. Even wonderful work has happened over the years, even in Malleshwaram, HSR layout. Hasiru Dala has done good work, Seva has done. And we have the 2bin 1 bag resources available. So the second important thing that we have done is put up posters. So it's good to have, what we have done is put posters in all the lifts, in all the notice boards. So it's important that the residents are constantly made aware of what is dry waste, what is compostable, and what is recyclable. So for that, we have effectively put posters. So one highly recommended thing is put pictorial posters of this kind which shows the green bin, red bin, and what is to be put where, what you should discard where, for example, where the blades go or where the broken glass goes. So those posters have to be put everywhere, and this has to be enhanced. The third thing that we have done to make it effective is to go and put in our platforms like the email platform or whatever you have, if you are using, constantly create awareness about what is 2bin 1 bag, how the High Court of Karnataka has mandated it in 2015, how BBMP rules mandate that segregation is mandatory, particularly, and what is bulk generators. So that we do constantly by making people aware so that there is a compliance. The other thing we are doing is to talk about the human angle. That has also helped, because how our waste keepers, the Porokarmikas will suffer if you put broken glass without wrapping it. So we ensure that all the hazardous waste is wrapped in discarded paper or something before it is put in the red bin or put separately, so that there is no injury to the people. The other quick thing I will mention is it is important to do door-to-door collection. Anything else we have tried doesn't work. It has to be door-to-door and fixed timings. We maintain the timings. If there is a delay because of some lift issue or something, we inform the residents through our common WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups, etc. It's important to maintain the timings. for compliance. We do one important thing is we are collecting waste daily, all the dry waste, reject waste. Though the pickup van comes only once in 2 days or 3 days for dry waste. However, from door to door, we are collecting on a daily basis. Another important thing which I will like to talk about is the plastic use. So the residents tend to use plastic lining or what you call biodegradable plastic in the green bin. We have zero tolerance to such practices. BBMP rules do not allow use of any so-called biodegradable plastic. So we keep repeating this point, and any resident who uses plastic lining, we don't allow that. The next point is for composting. There is some machines available which actually burn the kitchen waste. That is not desirable. They create pollution. They are like incinerators. So some of the communities have installed such. Even we have, but we don't use. What the residue also is not good for plants. So it is not advisable. What is advisable is in situ composting. If you have space, if you can manage it, that is great. Otherwise, you need to hand over the kitchen waste separately. So that is the idea. And also for plastic and paper, we have demarcated areas in our common area. So they are collected in a bag. The bag has compartments. So we try and put plastic separate and paper separate. And we store it in such a way that even the pickup van makes it easier. The last 2 points I want to mention before I hand over is about garden waste. So we have an earmarked area for garden waste, and it is ideally we should have a leaf composter. It is not very difficult. At this point, we are not running a leaf composter, but garden waste shouldn't be mixed with other waste. And the biggest challenge we have, and we have not, there's no easy solution to that, is what you call construction and demolition waste, which is also known as C&D. So we are treating it separately, and each resident is charged for removal of debris. For example, when there is a renovation of the house going on, we keep all the waste separate, and there is a charge that the resident has to pay, and special arrangements should be made for debris removal, and they shouldn't be mixed with any of the other waste. With this, I hand over back because and any questions in the end we can answer.
Okay, thank you, Praveer. I just had a quick question for you. In your years, teaching everybody or sharing your best practices about waste management, what is the single most challenging area that you have faced?
I think the biggest issue is overuse of plastic and carry bags, and tendency for people to use the black bag and mix the waste and in the black bag and dump it, not understanding the consequences of it and how mixed waste actually go to landfills directly. They create leachate, they spoil our lakes. So that even the residents have to be constantly told that not to use overuse plastic and disposables, because that is the biggest challenge we face. And there is still, though it has been banned, there is a tendency of people to use the black bag, mix all the waste in that, and throw it together. This has been the biggest challenge.
Okay, thank you. And I want to reiterate here, a lot of people, I think, they think that biodegradable bags or degradable bags can be used to line because they just don't want to they just don't want to deal with the yuckiness in the wet waste. But really, there is good research, even though the advertisements and the makers of these biodegradable bags might say so, there is just really good research out there saying that these biodegradable bags or degradable bags just don't degrade. Actually, they remain as they are, as plastic bags. So for every residential community, my suggestion and what we have done in our own is to ask residents to use, if they want to use something, use newspaper as a liner, and just do not use plastic bags.
I'll just quickly add one point here. Mr. Randeep, the Special Commissioner of BBMP, has repeatedly mentioned that in Bangalore, this whole biodegradable bag is not permitted. It is not allowed. Point one. Point two, our housekeeping staff, there is no way for them to know what is biodegradable, what is
Correct.
plastic, etc. So
Very
we have a
important.
zero tolerance. We allow newspapers or waste paper to be used as lining if necessary. But even that is discouraged. We basically want kitchen waste in the green bin as it is.
Correct, correct. I think the best practice is not to use anything, but if they do want to use newspapers, it's just not a good idea to encourage plastic, and there should be a zero tolerance. Okay, next, we will move on to Mr. Ravi Kumar, and his knowledge and his expertise and experience in solar energy will be very useful for a lot of the communities to know about. Electricity charges will be going up. Bescom has given us surprises after surprises. So if there is a way to go towards a more solar method, maybe you will be able to realize some savings somewhere. And as the title of this workshop says, over to you, Mr. Ravi Kumar.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Zibi. Okay, 5 to 6 minutes, a very short time to talk on solar.
I understand.
But I'll try and do as much justice I can possibly do in this.
Thank you.
Let me begin with this. Yeah. In today's world, apartments have become the most preferred place to live. Okay, on account of this, what is happening currently is apartment communities have become the mass consumers of water and energy. Additionally, they are also the mass generators of waste. And lots of initiatives are being taken by the Apartment Residents Welfare Association and various solution providers to manage these efficiently in an economical and environmentally sustainable manner, which is the topic of our discussion today. When it comes to electricity, energy bills are the big burning hole in the community savings. And if you look at it carefully, the cost of electricity has been steadily increasing year on year at an average compounded annual growth rate of 5 to 6%. Even when we are in a pandemic situation, the government does not spare us. And you would have noticed that Bescom has recently increased the electricity tariff. So this is going to be the trend as far as the electricity costs are concerned, and it is not going to change in the near future. So what can apartments do to manage these rising costs is a question, right? Okay, so ever since net metering came into being, solar power has become the best bet to change this trend and provide a long-term saving option for the apartments. Fortunately, apartments have large rooftops that is completely unutilized. Besides 300 days of sunshine in our country is a big boon, and it provides the necessary raw material at free of cost. With the kind of sunshine that we have in India, we can easily produce electricity to the tune of 750 gigawatts from solar alone. But whereas the current production across all sources of energy is only 380 gigawatts, and out of which solar power is just a meager 4%. So if you look at the scenario, on the one side, we have rising energy costs. On the other side, we have enormous opportunity. So what is the constraint in moving to solar? The constraint is basically the capital cost and the lack of awareness and the myths around the solar energy. So why is it gaining traction now? Okay, firstly, it is now making great financial sense because the cost of solar panels have reduced considerably over the last several years. Not only that, the inverter technologies have evolved, and they are now providing long-term warranties. All of these have made the capital cost more affordable. Besides, if you keep your money in the corpus, it could typically yield a maximum of 5 to 6%, which is taxable. Whereas the investment options like solar will get you a non-taxable return of 12 to 13%. So also okay. Also the apartments which do not want to invest their corpus funds in solar, there are other options available, like in a PIX model, which will ensure that the apartments are insured against the rising costs and as well as reduce the energy bills virtually with no investment on their side. So the concerns around the system performance is completely eliminated with a third-party investment. So the economics is becoming very viable. Okay. Also, there are lots of proof points. So as far as Bangalore is concerned, with more apartments having installed solar now and getting the benefit of it. So it is easy to go solar now. A little bit of homework on the basics of solar energy and expert opinion from good installers should help in understanding it better. As far as the sustainability, from a sustainability perspective, it is a clean, cheap, sustainable, non-polluting source of energy. It is our responsibility to contribute to the environmental goals, which is the legacy that we can pass on to the next generation. If you look at the other sources of energy, thermal, like, okay, we have limited resources and largely dependent on import. They are non-renewable and do a lot of damage to the environment. Hydro, it involves very high investment, high maintenance, and very low private investments. Again, nuclear, again, dependence on imports, high investments and high maintenance. But if you look at solar, it is the only source that can be generated by both large and small investors. Secondly, it can be consumed captively. Above all, like, okay, it is environmentally friendly. So it is important for us to look at it from the perspective of environmental friendliness besides the economic lens. As far as the government policies are concerned, it is sort of sending mixed signals. While there is general encouragement with regard to the embracement of solar energy, certain policies are triggering new uncertainties in the minds of people. There have been recent talks that the state government is discouraging net metering to support distribution companies. Last year, the government removed the net metering for industrial and commercial organizations. However, the fortunate part is that it is still continuing for the domestic residential categories. Apartments, common area electricity falls under domestic residential tariff. So it is better for the apartments to leverage the favorable policy that exists now and currently and quickly move on to solar. With net meterings, apartments get energy credits when they generate surplus, and they can feed the grid, which gets offset against the imports that the apartments make. There's a big advantage which needs to be leveraged quickly. Companies like us provide various options to suit the pockets of the apartments, and we have done it successfully in the past. So my final comment is that it is the responsibility of every one of us to create eco and economical value through green energy. So with that, I will end my note here. Like, I'm happy to answer any questions in the end.
Okay, thank you, Ravi Kumar. One of the things that that we kind of ran against when we were looking at solar options in our community was technology. Actually, this was when I was the president for a community about 2 years ago. We have tall buildings. We have 20 floors, and at that time, running a solar unit up on the tower, there were the loss of electricity from the top floor to the bottom floor. It was not economical at that time 2 years ago. But I just want that's one of the challenges that we ran up against. I'm sure during the last 2 years there must be better technology available now. And is this something that if your apartment, the buildings are really tall with respect to unit loss and those things, where does it stand now?
Yeah, so if you use the right gauge of the cables, the loss of electricity is going to be minimal. And what we have seen from our experience is the loss of electricity in tall buildings is just 1 to 2%. I think, yeah. So I think it is very negligible component, and the amount of savings that one will get by installing a solar plant is phenomenally high, and I think I would basically encourage one to go for it.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps we can touch base after this and then see how that can be done.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I now call upon Mr. Vijay. As he said in his introduction, there is a lot that can be done about rainwater harvesting and how to save on water in each of the residential communities. And clearly, it's really, really very important because there are months that when there is no water. Drinking water is a challenge for a lot of the communities, especially in the outer lying villages and in Whitefield. Especially a lot of the communities depend on tanker water or borewell water, and borewells. I think right now we have touched 1,500 feet. I think there's just no water even at 1,000 or 1,200. We are touching 1,500. Bangalore gets plenty of rain, and that is what is astonishing. We have enough rain and we do well with respect to saving them. We wouldn't be in the soup that we are in some of the months when we need a lot of water and we depend on tanker waters, where the price then just goes up and everybody's trying to, and the tanker operators also kind of dangle us with with the many things that they are able to, they hold power over us. So yes, Mr. Vijay, if you can tell us what is it that we can do different communities, with respect to apartment communities, residential, if it is just villas, what are the different things that we can do to save on water?
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you so much. As you are aware that, the BBC has reported that, and which is endorsed by the Niti Aayog, that Bangalore will be the second city in the world to run out of the water. And it is proving right, because as you were referring, the water table is, falling drastically. We have already reached in some of the places 1,800 feet, very about half a kilometer down the earth, and still we don't find water. Out of the every 10 borewells drilled in Bangalore, we find water in only 4 borewells. And in that 4 borewells also, the 2 borewells dry in the first year. So the strike rate of the borewell is hardly 20% in Bangalore. Though we have got enough and more rainfall, we get about 980 of rainfall, which means to say that even a small rooftop of just 1,000 square feet of roof area, we get about 1 lakh liters of precious clean distilled water. I'm repeating precious clean distilled water because many of us think that if rainwater stored, we get a lot of smell in it, or the rainwater, the worms will develop. But if rainwater stored properly after proper filtration, it can be stored for 100 years. There are, a lot of studies which have been done over 100 years old building, where they removed the water from their underground rainwater storage tank, and they found the water to be potable. That is the potential of the rainwater. Let's assume for an apartment for bigger size of 10,000 square feet, we get about more than 10 lakh liters of water. That means to say, in the tanker values, we get about 200 tankers. In the commercial values, it comes to about 1,20,000 liters of water. This is, if you install rainwater, it is one-time investment, and then you have got returns year on year. And as you know, that Bangalore, we get plenty of the rainfall. There are a lot of rainfall other than the average annual rainfall. We get a lot of cyclones, and we generally get the rainfall is very well distributed. So this can be a very important source. Your return of investment can, if you are buying tankers, it can be as low as 1.5 to 2 years. That is the return of the investment. And in case you are getting BWSSB water, then the return of investment may be about 4 to 5 years. But once installed, this whole system can run up to, if installed properly, if a proper care is taken to install it properly, it can run up to at least a minimum of about 30 to 40 years without any maintenance kind of a thing. There are a lot of open spaces which means the water is going waste. This water can be recharged. One myth is that, if you make a recharging pet, the borewell will recharge, which will never recharge. Just to give you an example, we have got so many lakes here, which are, deeper, as deep as more than 30, 35 feet deep, and it has got water for 365 days. So they are better than our, recharging pits. Generally, everybody make that, we make recharging pit, and we think that we have done rainwater harvesting and which will recharge our borewell. That is not true. Because when we drill a borewell next to these lakes, Edur Lake or Sankey Tank or Hebbal Lake, anything, we don't get 5 inches of water. In fact, in the walking track of the Sankey Tank, the borewell has dried. That means to say, these pits we are making will not help to recharge our borewells. They can recharge the open wells. We are advocating that we should have enough and more number of open wells in each and every apartment complexes, because we have got enough and more subsurface water which can give you water for at least 200 days. This is a pure water, and compared to your borewell water also, the surface water is very good. What has happened, because of the advent of the borewell, we thought, because these wells used to dry in the deep summer, we thought that wells are not useful, and we just went for borewells. We have got about presently counted borewells about more than 2.5 lakh borewells in Bangalore. But according to our studies, which we have done intensive studies, we found that in the Cubbon Park area, in the deep summer, the water is available at 14 feet. Whereas in the same Cubbon Park, the borewell water is at 800 feet. That means to say we have got enough and more subsurface water, because these recharging pits can help our wells, not the borewells. So, in combination of having a open well, and then the recharging structures, innovative recharging structures to recharge these borewells, and then to reuse the rainwater, which is a very good source, for the investment what we are making, for the future generations, and for this, because all this water which is coming is going into the storm drain and causing floods somewhere.
Okay.
lives and properties are destroyed somewhere outside our apartment. It's not visible, but we read it in paper every day because of the, see, just one house of about 2000 square feet yields about 4000 liters. Let's assume there is a street which has got 20 houses this side and 20 houses on the opposite side. 2000 into 20 is one side 80,000 and the other side is another 80,000. So 1,60,000 liters of water is, sent into the storm drains by just one street. Imagine the
Yeah.
colossal quantity of the water that is getting wasted. Just to give you an example, how much potential the rainwater harvesting has got. We get about 1,200 MLD of water from Kaveri, and another 400 to 500 MLD of water is drawn from the ground. So total about 1,600 MLD of water is what is required for Bangalore.
Okay.
And which is coming from Kaveri from about 108 kilometers with pumping cost of 1.3 crores, only the electricity bill, which is given to pump the water to Bangalore. But let's assume, just theoretically, let's assume that if a plastic sheet is covered on a Bangalore, and if you are able to collect the rain that falls on that plastic sheet, we will be able to supply water without Kaveri or without any other source. We can supply about 3,000 MLD of water. Means double the quantity of the water that is supplied for the BWSSP, we can supply only by rainwater. That is the potential. That is the reason we had so many lakes around us. The Kempegowda, who built this beautiful city, had constructed so many lakes. But over the period of time, because we thought we are most intelligent than our forefathers, we destroyed everything. We destroyed the open well system, which was a fantastic system to mitigate your whole water problem.
I know, I know we are running out of time. I know you're very passionate about water, but unfortunately, we're going to run up against time. We have just about 15 minutes left, and we have two speakers again. I will quickly sum up, and I agree. Yes, we have enough rainwater in Bangalore, and it's ironic that to bring water to Bangalore, a hill station where we get enough rainwater, we are actually trucking or bringing water from Kaveri 1,000 meters up, which is kind of ridiculous. And one important point about borewell that I want to make here is that recently the central government has said that borewell water that which we all use, we are currently not paying for it, but there is a ruling that every apartment or anybody who takes water from groundwater, they will have to start paying for it. Groundwater is actually a public property, and so far everybody's just sucking it up for their own personal use without any pay, but that is going to be charged as well. So going towards a system where we can harvest rainwater is a no-brainer for environment, for sustainability in the long run, because we are running out of water. There are dire warnings everywhere, but also it is going to affect our pocket. It will definitely lead to savings. So on sustainability as well as savings, encourage everyone to look at the option of rainwater harvesting to manage the water in each of your residential communities. I want to quickly go to Satish Malia here. We have been finally able to onboard him onto this workshop. Mr. Malia will talk about the safety aspects, the third S in the title. Satish, please go.
Hello,
yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please introduce yourself really quickly. I'm going to give you a timer, your 5 minutes, because we have a few more things to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My apologies, not able to join before because of a technical hitch. Let me introduce myself. I'm Satish Malia. I'm part of the management committee now in one of the apartment in Yelahanka. I am also part of the leadership team in BAF for the North 1 cluster. And having last 7 years being an entrepreneur, I relate a lot of my learning and professional thing in when you run a MC. So my topic today is for the safety. What I learned from what I do as a management committee member. So talking about safety, it is the most neglected, I feel, in an apartment, because normally safety, what we meant in an apartment is that the statutory requirement, what we follow, either in a STP, either in a electrical inspectorate for lift. So only statutory things are taken care. But what is safety? It is a state of being giving a protected from a potential hazard or a harm for any activity what you do. Example, when you drive a car, you are told to wear a belt. So what is that? This is a norm now. Okay, but are we as an apartment member protecting ourselves with a belt? I say no, because we are only bothered about the statutory requirement what we are told to do, or was what I said for lift or STP or anything. So what are the and is it MC is responsible? Yes, of course, MC is responsible, because MC legally is responsible for anything. Is not the vendor who provides service to you. For any safety, it happens inside your campus. So what are the basic of safety? We have to be stay alert, be proactive, be don't go for shortcuts or whatever you do. So for the any assets what you have in your apartment. So what are those assets? See, normally in an apartment, typical apartment, whether it's a small or a big, you have a WTP, water treatment plant. There's a sewage treatment plant. Of course, now somebody panel told about solar plant. So most of the things have now that new things also come up: solar plants, transformer, or lightning arrestor. Even lightning arrestor we have, but we neglected it, saying that it's a important part of our asset. So are we doing this proactively, taking care of this all these assets in terms of safety, or taking care of the safety measures what is supposed to have? I think the answer is that we have to educate ourselves as a community in this aspect of the safety. So if you see the industrial part of it, industry people will follow the lot of safety norms. And there's a study says that not 7 in Karnataka itself, there are around 130 or 136 tasks which are related to only fatal deaths happen because of electrical safety aspects. They're not taken care. So I will talk about electrical safety today, more on that, because that is the one what is neglected most part of our activity in an apartment. Okay, so why it is done so? Because everything is outsourced and vendor is supposed to take care. So what do you do normally in an MC? It is taken, assume that it will be taken care by a vendor. Suppose you give an example of an STP. STP is supposed to run, and what we give the parameters saying that no, we require a clean water after treatment, and we require a smell. We should not get smell of this thing. That is the only thing we give to a vendor for STP. But to maintain it, we have to support that vendor, because motor will be running too long, motor will be reused after winding, and nobody bothered to take care of whether it is heating up and it can be a potential danger. All this has to be taken by the MC, not a vendor, because vendor ultimately you are given a mandate saying that you have to give a clean water, you have to give a clean odorless water. Okay, so this aspect of it definitely going to cost you. So definitely when you derive at a safety protocol in your apartment, you should take care of all these parameters, saying that you may be doing a electrical energy audit, but definitely nobody is using this opportunity to do a safety for a electrical equipment audit. So this is a must for
I'm going to interrupt you right here. What is like the best, what is the most or the biggest challenge and the key learning that you've had with respect to safety?
So in comes to safety, I think we should be very, very proactive. In regulation cannot be just this thing, and we should take care of ourselves. Just it should not depend on the regulation. Every individual should handle the electricity in a safe manner. Do not try to get into loopholes and just overcome that regulation. In case of any doubt, best thing is to talk to the electrical inspector.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Satish. I know that we are pressed for time. We only have about like 7 minutes left, and I know that we really want to hear from Praveen also because he kind of has a good background in facility management, and there are some key learnings that we have to kind of that we can get from him with respect to service level agreements and what RWAs can do to make sure that they are keeping to all compliance requirements and doing it safely, sustainably, but with and with cost savings. So which is very important because with respect to cost going up. Praveer, I will pass on the mic to you. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Praveen. So I will be touching upon the cost-saving opportunities that are available in apartment premises. Since I come from the facility management background, so I'll be talking specifically on how you can reduce the overall maintenance cost of the society. Okay. Before getting into the details of how to do cost saving, I want to give us just a brief snapshot of how the maintenance cost that you pay, right, is being distributed across various segments. So first is, say, for example, manpower cost, right? So the predominant cost is manpower, which constitutes around 40 to 45% of your total maintenance cost. So manpower, I mean the staff that you deploy for the security, housekeeping, garden, the STP operations, and any janitor services, pest control, all that is a part of the manpower services. And then the 15 to 20% of your maintenance cost goes towards water. Okay, so I can just give you a ballpark number because it depends on the apartment sizes and the sources of water supply, etc. So, but generally, any apartment spends 15 to 25% of their maintenance cost on water. Okay, and the third is the power. So, power, if you see, there are a lot of people have invested on solar and other sustainable thing. But in general, if you see, the BESCOM bill keeps increasing year on year due to the unit rate and also on the equipment condition deterioration. So the power constitutes around 20 to 25% of your maintenance cost. So the rest is usually on the AMCs of your utilities like lifts, DG, and transformers, incidental expenses, and repairs and maintenance costs. So this is the brief snapshot of how your maintenance cost that you pay for the community is being spent by the RWAs. Okay, so I would be touching upon how you can optimize this cost and how you can maintain this overall maintenance cost so that the year on year the cost doesn't vary and it's in the same ballpark range. Okay, so before going into the details, I would say I will categorize the apartments in three categories. First is type A, so the apartments which are brand new and just got handed over from the builder, and the association is recently formed and takes the handover. Okay, so type B is an apartment with 3 to 8 year age of the building, wherein already there are a couple of MCs who have already formed and they have set some processes and they know which things work in their community and which won't work with the society and with the people, right? So they have a lot of experience about that. And this type C is about apartments which are greater than 8 years old. That is when the real challenge starts, where all your equipments are old and deteriorated, and the life cycle of the equipments once is near to its end, then the amount of repairs and maintenance, the recurring expenses that you incur would be higher. So if you see, if I have to plot time versus maintenance cost, it will be kind of exponentially increasing year on year. Okay, one is due to the increasing cost of maybe the labor, due to minimum wages changes, or it could be due to the power cost that is increasing, or it could be due to the increasing repairs and maintenance cost, which will also impact on your increase. It will increase your power bills as well as the repairs and maintenance cost. Okay, so as an RWA, how can you optimize this and keep the cost under control? So that is what I'm going to talk about in the next 2 minutes.
Praveen, I think we only have 2 minutes left
Yes,
for,
yeah,
for the
I'll
thing.
finish it
And
up.
we really want to hear you, but if there is any way that you can share with all the panelists in some written notes, because I know that we were not able to play the video at the beginning, and I think we will have to play the video. Would you suggest, I think we play the video, because we just have 2 minutes remaining to go for this workshop, unfortunately. I know we started late because we had some technical difficulties.
But Zivi, I would suggest you to give me 2 minutes. I'll finish it off because this is very, very
As you
important
wish.
for
Okay.
RWS. Because if the RWS have to give a rockstar performance for the society, this is very, very important. Okay.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
and this
Go
2
ahead.
minutes will be really worth for it. Okay.
Go
I'll
ahead.
work for it. Okay. So for the type A apartment, that is a brand new. So they have to focus mostly on the proper handover from the builder, ensure all the compliances documents are in place, and most importantly, they have to do a design validation of all their systems. Majority of the places, be it STP or the pumps or the any utilities, certain things are over designed, and they tend to have so it consumes a lot of power, and they don't have a proper SOPs or the proper running hours or the design validation of the systems, which will eventually lead to a lot of cost in the first 3 years. So as a member of the first RWA, right? So the first association is formed. Your duty is to validate your designs given to you with the hiring as professionals, and downsize things which are over designed, and establish SOPs and process where you can optimize manpower, and also put timers or technologies help, like implementing a motion sensor or things like that, and you can save on power. So these activities has to be done by the in first 3 years. So in the next 3 years, so once already there is enough experience about the previous MCs, the new MC members should focus on investing on water saver devices or power saving activities like IoT solutions, right? So I'll just quickly show one device. You can see in this video. This is a water saver. So many of them know that water saver means is just aerator. But if you see this device, so this is a water saver which can save up to 80% of water. You see this? So basically, if you have in this, you can adjust it. It's a dual mode operation. So wherein you can fine tune the water requirement accordingly. So if you put this in kitchen sinks, and the people who have invested smart meters, they've seen the savings are really close to 40% in their water consumption. So such things we need to invest so that there is a cost control for overall society. Okay. And the last category, which I would say is the type C apartment, that is buildings which are greater than 8 years old. So these buildings, they will have, the asset life is almost over. Their pumps, their motors have already revented several times, and they have to be almost in the stage of scrapping. Okay, so those assets have to be revamped in order to bring down your power cost, bring down your repairs and maintenance costs, and most important, you will not have outages. Otherwise, right, every now and then there will be a pump breakdown, or there will be a the electrical spark will come, or a panel has burned. So all these issues will come, especially for the buildings which are greater than 8 years. So these proactive actions have to be taken by the RWAs to bring down their overall cost. So in nutshell, I would say if you focus on processes, SOPs, compliance, design validation in the first 3 years, you can save, you can optimize your maintenance cost. In the next year, invest on water savers, invest on IoT solutions, invest on mechanization, invest on sustainability. So then you can very well bring down the optimization, optimize the cost. When you cross 8 years, right? By the time all these sustainable solutions like solar and all would have given you the ROI already, right? So your power will be almost quite free. But once you cross 8 years, then you have to very much invest on all the equipments, do a proper snag audit, do a revamp of the entire systems, so that the asset life is again maintained well. Okay. So in this way, if you can see, right, so the overall cost for the society would be maintained very well.
Thank you. I think, Praveen, that was a fantastic summation of what each residential community can do to, bring down costs, across type A, type B, type C. Those are very valuable suggestions. I know that we are 11:03 and there is a video that we played. So I'm going to go to the video and then quickly wrap up. Thank you everyone, to all the panelists here for taking the time out on a Sunday morning to share your insights and expertise with everyone. I hope it was a very, and to all the attendees, thank you for joining. Hope it was useful and you have taken some tips. If there are any questions, you can reach out to BAF or any of the panelists that are here for more information. Thank you, everyone. Can you please play the video?
Can you just make me the host, ma'am?
I do not have that power. I wish I had that power, but I do not have that power. Whoever has the...
I have given you the access for it.
Yeah, thank you.
Our vision is to provide technology-driven integrated facility management services for apartments and villa communities in Bangalore.
Uniservice is a technology-driven facility management company. So we stand unique because we have a proprietary software called SmartLady, and that is a facility management software. What are the water parameters that you have in your community? What are the water types there? What is the quality that you are maintaining? So the next thing is about the water level and the consumption. So this is again a real-time data. You can also go
I think there is something wrong with the video. It's not playing. Is everybody able to view the video?
No, the video is stuck. Maybe anyway.
Actually,
We have seen the main part here.
Okay. I think it's a wrap, or I'm not sure what we are, but what we can do is just take a quick minute. I'll take a quick minute to wrap up on all the discussions that we've had today. Praveer talked about waste management. I think if you want to learn more about waste management, what is it that you can do in your residential community, I would strongly encourage you to check with SWMRT, Solid Waste Management Roundtable in Bangalore. They have a lot of information with respect to what each community and as an individual as well that you can do to that you can do for waste management and to reduce waste that you produce or your community produces. For solar energy, as Mr. Ravi Kumar stated, there is much that can be done. There is good technology updates in the last few years, and and each residential community can realize a lot of savings. With respect to electricity charges. And if you want to know more, actually, Whitefield Rising had conducted, and there's information with Whitefield Rising, an example from a community here in Channasandra who put up a solar and energy unit, and what is it that they're doing. If you want more information, please do reach out to us, Facebook, Twitter, newsletter, email. With respect to water, rainwater harvesting is a solution that every individual as well as residential community, individual house will have to look at, because water is a precious resource and it won't be free for long. Either groundwater will not be free, and Kaveri water is at a premium now because we just do not have enough water. But there is, of course, plenty of rain that Bangalore gets, and if we can use it wisely, I don't think we need to be, we will ever face 0 day, as many experts have predicted. With respect to safety, as Mr. Malia said, there is much that we can be on top of all the requirements with respect to electricity, equipment that are being used in your residential community. Having a tight control and watch over that will keep us all from harm and keep us all safe. Praveen shared a wonderful way to categorize each residential community based on the number of years it's been there, 0 to 3 years, 3 to 8, and above 8, and what you can do with respect to maintenance costs and how these maintenance costs are broken up in each residential community and what you can do to realize savings. With that, we come to the end of this workshop on savings, sustainability, and safety. We hope you've had a good session, and there are some tips and best practices that you can take from here. For any information on any of these topics, I'm sure you can reach out to BAF and they can point to the right experts, or reach out to us to learn more. Thank you very much, everyone.